high crimes and misdemeanors when it comes to the President of the United States. High crimes and misdemeanors apply to serious wrongdoing, and not necessarily criminal wrongdoing, of course, by the President as President. So I want to tell the nitwits in the Southern District of New York, and you schmo, you deputy U.S. attorney, you clown, I'm talking to you. All these little campaign issues you're trying to turn into felonies, just because you have a schmo by the name of Michael Cohen, just because you have a Hillary goon by the name of Lanny Davis, just because you have a clown that runs a sleazy newspaper called the National Enquirer, and you threaten them with this and you threaten them with that, and they buckle, and you got, oh, look at this, we got them on the campaign issues. Number one, you got Trump on nothing. Number two, hello, all that happened prior to the time he was President of the United States. So you can't indict him, and at least if the House were to follow the rules, you can't impeach him. Certainly not on that. Problem is, the Democrats want to elect a mob, a Democrat mob, who will steamroll the Constitution. Because they don't care about the Constitution. That's the bottom line. They will steamroll the Constitution. And you have Mr. Mueller and the Southern District of New York conspiring, colluding, working together to load up the report to Mr. Rosenstein, who is a coward who will quickly turn it over to the United States Congress, leak it to the media, somebody will, where they lay out their criminal allegations that don't... Can you imagine being a prosecutor? Can you imagine being a prosecutor, being able to make charges and not have to test them in the court of law? Again, a prosecutor's not a judge. A prosecutor's not a jury. A prosecutor's not an objective arbitrator or mediator. He's an advocate. She's an advocate. And they'll be able to say the President of the United States violated this campaign law. He violated the limits on corporate giving. He violated the limits on personal giving. He directed his lawyer to make these payments. Hush money, hush money. These non-disclosure agreements, they're all hush money. No, hush money. Wow. And we know it's true because these miscreants, Cohen and Pecker, they have pled guilty to them, so they must be true. Unindicted co-conspirator. Say the media, even though Trump hasn't been called that. But that doesn't stop Mueller in his report from saying that. And so the real diabolical, unconscionable nature of this is you have prosecutors who are required to prove their cases that don't have to prove anything, and a president of the United States that does not even have the ability to defend himself. And you hear these clowns in the media say, why is he tweeting? Why is he saying these things? Why is it? Because he has no choice. There's no other way for him to deal with this. This is unprecedented. Unprecedented. I mean, we've had independent counsel before. You had we've had special prosecutors before. They write the reports and they release them and so forth and so on. But this is specifically being done for the purpose of impeachment. That's why it's being done. Russia collusion. That's a quaint thought at this point, isn't it? Why do you think they're going after the Manhattan Madam and this clown Roger Stone? Because they want to dig up more information, try and get more plea agreements, load up the report. I'll bet you a McDonald's Big Mac that what's happening in the Southern District of New York will wind up in Mueller's report. What do you think? But even if it doesn't, the Democrats have it now. And I love the way Nancy Pelosi and the other Democrat leaders are tamping down impeachment talk because they don't want you to be upset. They want you to sit there, and I get callers who say this, and you have analysts who say, look, there's no blue wave. What are you worried about? Sit tight. It's not a big deal. And what do I say every time? Wake the hell up. There is a blue wave, and it can only be beaten by a red wave. 12th District of Ohio, a Republican district. 87% of the Democrats turn out, 40% of the Republicans. In a Republican district, imagine what happens in a marginal district. They'll all get blown out, the Republicans. Since when do you listen to Nancy Pelosi or Elijah Cummings or the media? This is a 5-alarm fire. It is a 5-alarm fire. Well, Trump, he does lie. I don't care. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the constitutional system. We're talking about reversing an election. We're talking about prosecutors who are involved in the impeachment process. We're talking about a whole array of potential crimes and interventions in the last election that have been ignored by the criminal side of the Department of Justice. No U.S. attorneys picked it up. The special counsel hasn't picked it up. Why? Why? Chasing the Manhattan Madam? But you can't chase Hillary Clinton? Why? And then on top of that, her serial violations of the Espionage Act. The case is laid out by Jim Comey himself. But then he decides we can't pull the trigger because the law doesn't say what the law says, and I've decided to change it. We all watched that press conference. We're waiting for him to say he's recommending she be charged, and he immediately reverses course. So the candidate who didn't violate the Espionage Act, he's the one under the gun. The candidate who did not hire Fusion GPS and use the Russians to get a FISA warrant on Hillary Clinton's campaign, he's the one under investigation. Can you believe it? No. But you have to understand, Mark. I understand everything. We all know what the hell's going on here. And what is it exactly that President Trump has done that's so horrible as President of the United States? Trying to secure the border, trying to deal with MS-16, trying to build up the United States military to deal with China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, etc., etc., trying to uphold his promises against an obstructionist Congress of both parties. What exactly has Donald Trump done as president that's so horrific? Where he's called a racist, he's called a dictator, he's called mentally ill, and on and on and on. And yet Mr. Mueller is God himself, godlike figure. Suddenly Mr. Comey is angelic. Absolutely unbelievable. In the face of the greatest scandal in American political history, the senior level of the FBI, senior level of our intelligence agencies, the unmasking of American citizens, including a retired lieutenant general, and the leaking of their names to the media, putting a spy in the Trump campaign, using opposition research as a basis for a federal warrant, a FISA court warrant that is reapproved, that is approved 3 more times, including by the current Deputy Attorney General of the United States. A mole in the office of the Deputy Attorney General by the name of Bruce Orr, whose wife works for Fusion GPS, whose wife is working on opposition against the opposition candidate Donald Trump, who uses his mole position in the Deputy Attorney General's office to push information to the FBI through a guy by the name of Peter Strzok, who has since been fired, their top counterintelligence investigator. Meanwhile, Peter Strzok triggering an investigation against Trump World for Russian collusion. He's the one who's a special pleader for a Russian oligarch who's on the no-visa list. None of this is under criminal investigation. None of this has warranted Jeff Sessions' attention. None of it has warranted Rod Rosenstein's attention. And while Mr. Mueller's chasing hookers in Manhattan, he has not seen fit to expand his investigation to cover any of that. What a sickening, pathetic spectacle. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.